Well, hello, everybody. I'm Russell Hill. I'm your host of WTF, and that is What the Fixed Ops. And I'm joined today by.
Hey, everybody. I'm Charity, co host here today, and we're excited. We have Joe Clementi on with us. Coach Joe, he's the Executive VP of Traver Connect. Joe, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be on and to be a part of this conversation. So let's get rolling. I'm excited. Let's go.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Well, it would be great if you could introduce yourself and tell our audience just a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, thank you. I'm Joe Clementi. I do go by Coach Joe. I'm the Executive Vice President at Traver Connect. Easy for me to say, right? The Executive Vice President at Traver Connect. We're a business development organization centered around helping your fixed operations and your operational business and business development. Our main focus is experience matters, which is one of the reasons why I'm so passionate to meet today, is because we really want to talk about everything related to the experience at an automotive environment, leadership, culture. I'm sure we'll bring up a lot of those topics that Russell, you and I have talked about many times. My experiences, I grew up in the automotive business, worked my way through college. I was partner in a dealership. After that, I left the automotive industry per se. I went into work for Mobility Works, the nation's largest provider of wheelchair accessible vehicles and equipment. And I helped lead a team of 100 stores across 33 or 35 states as a fixed operations service director. Came back to the automotive industry per se on the vendor side, working with John Traver. He's so inspiring, such a visionary person that our values aligned so well. And so I've been blessed to be with John and the Traver team for just about 10 months now. So that's a little bit about me.
Well, I can tell you, John Traver has left an indelible imprint right here with me. I met him, and he's been on the show as well. But I met him in, I think it was 1996 1996. Went through his boot camp in Houston. It was eye opening. It was just like, one thing I particularly remember, and I said this on the show with him, is if I heard it, I don't remember hearing the word paradigm shift. And I darn sure didn't know what it was. And it's stuck with me ever since. Rules and regulations that actually establish our boundaries. And foo-foo, phone up, follow up, and all that stuff. And it's been amazing. And he's such an industry leader on this side of things. And equal to that, so are you, Coach. So I met Coach. Sorry, I just used saying Coach. I met him, I think, 3 or 4 months into January, right after January 20th, January 7th, 2020. We went live with our first product with our current company. And I met him a couple of months right after that because of COVID through FixedOPS Mastermind that Dave Foy had on. And I met, industry giants like him and Ed Roberts and Michael Barrich and Joe Chambers, so many more. There's just too many. So if you feel slighted because I left your name out, okay, call me and give me a hard time. But other than that, yes. And most recently, seeing you in all the different places I see you, and we are once again back on FixedOPS Mastermind on Tuesday nights. And I have learned so much because, Coach, I grew up on the variable side. But when we're talking about all the trials and tribulations and things today that we all go through, it really boils down to just leadership. And I know because you make comments that both of us really align on most topics,
So many topics.
Speed of the pack is set by the leader. And if you want to make changes, you're going to have to do something different if you want to make a change. So, Cherry, first question.
Yeah. Well, tell us how you were attracted to coaching and training.
Yeah. It starts with just servant leadership. You see a gap and you see an opportunity to provide some of the pathway that as a leader you had to traverse, that you're hoping that you provide a set of skills that someone doesn't have to go through that same journey. And for me, it's just been, I think as you get a little older in your career, you start to realize the most impactful part of all of this is leaving behind a group of leaders who can take it to the next generation, who can lead to the highest degree. And for me, it's just been really just servant leadership. It's understanding that I have a role to play at this point in my life, and that's giving and connecting with people that need that kind of support. And I'm passionate about it. It's one of my values.
Well, tell us about competitive quiet and what you mean when you say true leadership is built in silence.
What did I tell you, Coach?
Yeah. I'll summarize it this way. The best way to really impact your business opportunities, your culture, your environment is the quiet moments that you not only observe, but you let others lead, that you learn from the gaps that exist, that you take those quiet moments, you journal, you read, you learn. Leaders are continuous learners. We are constantly looking for the best methods, the best understanding of what really contributes to that growth.
Journaling.
Yes, exactly. And, I have mine in front of me as well. You journal every day, right? And write something every day. So quiet leadership for me in particular is all about the moments where you can sit back, you can not only observe, but you can evolve. And many of us reach a certain point where we get stuck because I watched a great podcast the other day, and that leader was talking about you get stuck at a certain point where you say, I've achieved. And so there's nothing more for me, right? And the real intrinsic leadership is, there's more to go. It doesn't matter what level you're at. There's more to go. There's more to learn. There's more to give, more to contribute. I think that's what drives me every single day. That's what gets me up in the morning early. I'm a 4:00 in the morning guy, much like you, Russell, and a late evening person, because that's what fuels my flame.
Well, you said that the loudest leader in the room is often the most distracted. Can you elaborate on what you mean and perhaps give us a real world example?
Yeah, I think when you're in an environment, and I will give you a real world example without using names, but if you're leading in an environment where you are the loudest voice, you're the person pushing your agenda, but you're not receiving feedback, real world feedback for what's happening in the environment, all you're doing is dictating a path. The person next to you, the person aside from you, that's helping drive the result is not a part of the solution. So I'll use a real scenario. We were visiting a dealer, and the person that was the loudest in the room was just dictating those points that he happened to be really, really, really good at. But the others in the room weren't at that level. And they were trying to live up to the level of knowledge, skill, experience that person had built for decades in an hour. You can't possibly absorb all of that information or be inspired by all of that information in a time block. So sometimes the best leader, I would find this to be most of the time, is the most quiet one. The person who can sit back, absorb, understand, see the gaps, hear the noise, right? Somewhere between the activity that you have to create, the direction, and the real intrinsic results, in that middle is a lot of noise. And a really good leader allows themselves to filter through the noise and see what really has to be achieved. What are the directional steps? And I believe you empower people, you give them that autonomy to bring their unique genius. Wow, what can happen? The results are just incredible.
Joe, would you say that person that you just described is a leader? And I want to engage with you because people don't just automatically become leaders. It takes a lot of work. And whether it be just getting into management, managers are not leaders. Managers are managers. They light a fire underneath. Leaders, I believe, light a fire inside. And then there's even a step above leadership, and that's servant leadership too. I believe there's a couple of things that differentiate those. Do you also think that? And if so, give us your thoughts on that.
So that's a great question and probably deserves a more robust answer. But I'll tell you what experience has taught me. That person is a leader in the sense that they want to get their agenda forward, right? And because they're the leader of that organization, it's important for that. However, you said servant leader is the next level. And that means, how do I get everyone in the room to contribute their best? How do I let their talent solve this complex problem that we have? I saw a post by Brian Benstock, I don't know, this week sometime. And he said, we don't have an economy issue, we have a leadership issue.
That's right.
And
I saw that same one, yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. So I said this the other day, and I'll paraphrase, but I think the gap between customers and dealerships in particular aren't just operational, and it's cultural. And that gap is just widening and widening. See, too often we become profit-centric, and the pursuit of that, while it is a deeper issue, we miss out on the misaligned or the absent leadership, and it goes unaddressed. We become this, I do as I'm told, and that's not where autonomy lives. That's not where people want to contribute. I read a post the other day from, I'm drawing a blank on who it was, but she stated her daughter is just accepting a new job. And I thought, why not come into the automotive industry, right? Well, there's no purpose. There's no culture. There's no values that contribute outside of the financial statement. You and I were on a call this week, and one of the things that I heard was current data today is 50 to 60% turnover of a service manager. Talk about the gap widening. It is leadership. And I believe this 100%. A strong, purpose-aligned culture is not a nice to have. It's what separates you. And the research proves it out. All the research from McKinsey, from Gallup, I can go on and on and on. Even from Wards, from Forbes, I could go on. The research shows that a company with a cohesive culture outperforms fragmented ones by as much as 5 times earnings. Think about that just for a minute. Is culture a feel-good? Is culture a touchy-feely? We haven't even factored in the cost of turnover, right? The disengagement, the lost brand erosion. All of that is created by leadership, right? That culture is created and grown, fed through the leader. So to go right back to the original question you asked, was that person a leader? They were a leader in the sense they were trying to explain the direction, but not a leader in the sense of empowering their people to be able to achieve that. Have you read the Dan Pink's book, Drive?
No.
So I've heard this many different ways. Jim Collins talks about it. You can go all the way back. Jim Rohn talked about it. There's a lot of business-centric books on culture, but Dan summarizes it pretty well in the book Drive. And he said that in creating this journey, both for the customer and for the business, is really 5 steps. It's 4 steps, right? It's having clear purpose, right? So today's market, how does that align? Well, the younger generation, they're not looking for salary ranges and benefits and pizza. They're looking for some place that has a clearly defined purpose. Why would I contribute to this organization? A path to mastery. So what are the steps? How do I grow my career? How do I contribute? How do I do my role? How do I allow that person, the 3rd step, autonomy? How do I give that person the autonomy to do their job daily without me having to intervene, right? And lastly, he said, you have to have a clear set of rules for what success looks like. And in that strategy, it's so simple. But today's market, we have 4 generations.
I was going to say the same thing. 4 generations right
First
now.
time in history, right? First time in history. You and I were on another call and we were talking about this. How does a service manager in particular learn how to manage or lead a neurodivergent workforce? They don't have those skills today because no one's provided that skill level. All we have done is said, you know, I always use this story because it's kind of funny. I grew up and, you know, we lived in a family of hand-me-downs. That being the youngest, by the time I got it, the clothes were, well,
tattered and torn.
They were well worn, right? Right? Which happens to be process. It's well worn because it's handed from layer to layer to layer and it's inherited. So today's environment, if you have a different strategy for your clients, you have a different strategy for your team members, and they're not aligning, that's where the friction points are. When we're only looking at the byproduct, which is financial growth, that's where the sticks are. Really.
Yeah, we don't often think about that of, you know, us older people have been working and in our careers for a while. What is the newest generation? What do they want out of their career? And is it just a steady job and a good paycheck? You know, and things have changed.
You know, I said my oldest daughter just got her first big girl job. That's what I call it, her big girl job. She got her first big girl job. And one of those things as she finished her master's was taking in all of these offers and trying to decide which one aligns with my values. Wow. And I thought to myself, she's 25. And I thought to myself, wait, you're deciding your career based on your own values. How different is that in today's environment? Russell, you know, our age, we took the job that was presented to us and we learned how to fit into it. Today's environment is drastically different. So how do you give leaders the right tools to be able to engage with someone that's in one generation and someone that's in another generation? They don't even think the same way.
No.
I was in a training event last week, and we have a group of individuals that vary in age. You know what I saw? I saw so many people on their cell phone. The first thing that comes to mind is what's so important that they got to be texting? Well, they weren't. They were using AI and technology to take notes so that they could process later. The generation ahead of them, if you will, they're doing what you and I might do, take notes on a pad.
And they're probably thinking they're rude for getting on their phones.
Exactly. And it's this whole new level of technology and advancement that even for my age group is like, wow, I don't realize that the capabilities are so expansive today. So you got to create that environment for different generations. If we don't teach the skill sets, these hand-me-down processes, they don't work as well, right? They're not as congruent with today's marketplace.
No, I'm going to use that word, paradigm shift, which there is in our industry right now, and people are starting to wake up. And not only the rooms that you and I are in, but I spend a lot of time in this other place called Clubhouse in the morning. I spend 3 hours every single morning, early. Sometimes being involved, sometimes just listening. And I hear the same stuff over and over and over and over again about leadership, and people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. And it just goes on and on and on. And it's like you cannot take a square peg and fit it into a round hole. What is it that people really can't identify with is their why? which inspires and fuels them into the excitement and enthusiasm that gets them into figuring out what they need to do. That, there's the action, and then they reap great results. But then they take their ball off that why, and they get stuck in this spiral, and they wonder why 30, 60, a year down the road, they haven't really moved that far. What are your thoughts about that type of thing that I just said? And you better align with me, or we're going to edit it out. So
yeah, we align 1,000%, right? And why wouldn't we? Because I think of it this way. I'll try to pivot a little bit. As I get to travel and get to visit different dealer groups and travel throughout the industry, one of the things that's common on the wall is a mission statement or a purpose statement. And I got to be honest with you, my experience is that most people don't even know what it is. Why? Because they've been replenished, right?
Right.
Circulated and brought back into an environment that they don't know what that purpose is, what that culture should look like. All they know is I have this set of skills. I bring them into your environment, and I use my skills that I've learned, my hand-me-downs, and I deploy them in your experience, in your environment. And while at some levels that can be helpful, most of the time the disconnection is in, I reference this a lot. We call emotional quotient, our ability to understand humans, as a soft skill. The reality is it needs to be a hardwired skill in today's workplace. It needs to be wired in so that everyone on the organization understands the pathway. Have you ever walked into an environment and immediately felt the stress, immediately felt the pressure? Yes?
Listen, I was absolutely. There's no question about it. If it's customer centric or not. There's an aura, a feeling, and I think sometimes people really don't understand that. And let me tell you what I. So when somebody is in an environment and they get that uneasy, queasy feeling in their stomach, that's because the words aren't matching the actions, and they might not even be able to identify what it is, but it's an uncomfortable, uneasy, maybe a transactional. That feeling when those things match in your everyday life.
Yeah, it's that there's a lack of congruency. So it's let's say theoretically, I want to be a healthy person. We'll just pick a different scenario. And as a healthy person, does a healthy person have beer and cheeseburgers at lunch? Right?
They do that at dinner.
They might do that at dinner. Yeah. The reality is a healthy person is going to follow a different pathway, right?
Sure.
Healthy business does the same thing. So you can get on that same level of thought. We continue the same processes that aren't working. We multiply them. And all we're doing is replicating eating unhealthily, right? Versus saying, I need to change the way I see this, the way this environment is versus the way I perceive it. And real leadership connects when people are able to change behavior, not just an opinion. I talk about this all the time because it's one of my values. If we can't change the behavior, then we haven't influenced anything.
That's right.
Right? Nothing.
You need to say that again for everybody. Everybody listen to this. Go ahead.
If we cannot change the behavior, nothing changes. The opinions itself, you could agree with me, but if you don't do anything to change it, then all that is just preaching. It's me getting on a show much like yours and talking about the value of it and then doing nothing with it, right? If you think about all the experts in the field of leadership, all the experts in the field of human development, they say it's one thing to read the book, but if you don't apply anything in it, you might as well not even read it.
That's right.
And so every day I might pick a chapter out of a book and I have a unique way that I approach it. And then I'll say, okay, how does this apply to me? What can I do differently? What are some of the level of skills that can be applied? I post something every single day on LinkedIn. I'm not getting paid anything to do that from LinkedIn or anything from a perspective of saying, draw more attention to me. It's servant leadership. Here's a benefit, a practical application that you might be able to use that help you change your outlook.
Yeah. When I'm engaged with people, I'm careful sometimes in the environments I say this in because of the changes that I've made. And most people aren't willing to do the things you need to do to really make the necessary behavioral changes. They're pretty predictable, human behavior and what the outcome's going to be. But when people don't take ownership for where they're at and what's in their life at that moment, and they blame somebody or circumstances, I know right then. Now, I will try to find out where that came from and try to move them in a different direction. But most of the time, literally, I'll just end up loving where they're at, moving down the road, hope they got something out of me trying to turn their direction and see if they bite somewhere. So they ask me some questions. But it has to be something that I want. And I need to understand if there's going to be any changes, I'm going to have to make them. Coach, the stuff we talk about is phenomenal, but it most of the time goes in one ear and out the other. But you know what? That's okay too, because they're showing up and they're hearing it. And today may not be the day, next month may not, but if they continue to show up, I believe, and I think you do too, and all of you out there, what you read, what you listen to, and who you associate with are going to have a profound impact on your tomorrow, but it starts today, not tomorrow.
Let me tell you about a partner that's actually helping dealers get ahead, Global Dealer Solutions. If you've been wondering how to use AI the right way in your dealership, especially on the fixed side, these are the people to call. Their team gets it, not just the tech, but the real challenges that dealerships face every day. We're talking about conversational AI that doesn't just respond, it converts. It books appointments, follows up with service leads, even answers customer questions with actual relevance. It's not replacing your team, it's making sure your team can focus on what matters most, closing ROs and building relationships. But GDS isn't just about AI. They train your staff, drive traffic, and tighten up processes so your results stick long after the tool is turned on. And everything they do is built around one goal, growth that is real. If you want more service traffic, better follow-up, and a partner that's always a step ahead, check them out. Visit gdsdealers.com, follow them on LinkedIn at GDS Dealers, or just shoot them a message and ask, what would you do with my store? And see what they come back with. Global Dealer Solutions, process-driven, people first, always on it.
When you are learning something and growing, your literal brain is growing. However, if you continuously feed your brain with the negative stuff, then you are actually teaching your brain in neuroscience to say, okay, this is who I am. I'm this negative person. I'm this, everything's bad. The economy stinks. People are losing their jobs. So I'm going to lose. You start telling yourself.
Man, that just makes me want to commit suicide and go on down the road because there's no purpose. So do people believe what they see, or do they see what they believe? And I think they see what they believe. Their belief system dictates the things they see, because all four of us can look and listen to something for 10 minutes and then share it with somebody else. And our perspective in most cases is going to be quite different on the things that we picked up, whatever the nuances are, et cetera. And, people, I have changed so much. And there's been times, and I'm sure with you, where people say, well, Joe, you used to say other things. Well, I have more information now, so I changed my mind. Just because of what it was 5 years ago doesn't mean. So that's a sign that people are growing and they're evolving and moving in the right direction. And yeah, anyway, I can go.
No, you're on point. Are you the same person you were last year? If you are, then you're not growing, right?
No, but let me tell you what's a damn shame.
What?
Okay, I'm 66 years old, and I absorb and write stuff down and think about stuff, then forget it and come back to it every single day. And I love it. It's such an important, and I love people. I love pouring into people, and I love people overcoming challenges and obstacles in their life and going to another, and they have these aha moments. But it's like, I understand because I was there. I don't understand a 30 or 35-year-old that is, I want to help them understand that, and after I find out what they want, that the path they're taking is not going to get them there, and they don't understand that. And that's our job as mentors, coaches, leaders, whatever the case may be, is to plant that seed and to help it grow.
You're on point. It's how people receive the information and apply it, right? Everyone's path is very different. If you think about the way we grow up, we're influenced by our parents, by our friends. We're influenced at the preschool level, the high school level. Whether you're in college or you jump into a career, you're influenced by that environment. So our behaviors, our mindsets become formulated by those influences. And so if you're not really willing to look at something from a different perspective or receive, you said that very well, then you aren't going to grow. You're not going to achieve. I said this, it is one of my values. Leadership grows when wisdom is sown by intention, fed by curiosity, and then harvested through decisive action. So once you get it, you have an intention to receive it. You're very curious about how to solve it, and then you just take action. You do one thing that creates a result.
Absolutely.
Said very well, Joe.
Yeah.
You summed it all up for us there. All right. So tell us about the offstage cycle framework on leadership and why it's important.
Yeah, I think when you are considering looking at your vision, how to bring things into clarity and specificity, you have to be objective. You have to see the vision for what it can be. You have to then decide, how do I allow my partners in this process see this vision, bring their unique genius to the solution, and then work congruently together? Because you're going to hit roadblocks. I mean, I don't know about your business or the automotive world, but I can tell you in real life, here's what happens. You climb, and then there's something, whether it's the economy or, right, Russell, everything is cyclical. So you have to be able to ride those waves, and it's not at the bottom or at the top that your success is achieved. It's when you're at the bottom. It's like when you can go down here and say, I still see that. It's still there. I just have to work better to get to where we were. Because there are always going to be distractions. There's always going to be a tug on your beliefs and your values.
And that doesn't mean that it's not for you. You're not supposed to, or any of those things. It just, how bad do you want it? They're just, you need to develop tools in your arsenal to understand how to go over, under, or around them to achieve what you want to achieve. Just because there's so many people, they'll start off, they'll hit an obstacle, and then they'll back up and slide back because, oh, well, it must not be something I'm supposed to do, or it would be open and clear. Well, that's not how life is. It's exactly the opposite.
We quit too soon, don't we? Yeah. We get to a point where
right before the miracle happens.
Yeah. Sometimes to get to the other side, you have to be beaten down a little bit, right? You have to be humbled, and you have to be able to say, what I'm doing isn't working. The difference is, what do you change or alter or move to be able to get back climbing the mountain again? Because it is always going to be that peaks and valleys. And I don't know if there are members out there or people that are watching that experience this, but I'll speak firsthand. There's times where I totally doubt that what I'm doing is having a greater, more impactful approach. Is it working? And if you constantly stick with that thought, you're going to stop.
Yep.
If you say, I'll keep trying. I'll adjust. I'll take, Tony Robbins calls it massive action, right? You notice what's working and what's not, and do the things that are working and stop the things that aren't. But it's not so clear.
No, I met a gentleman and not only met him, but had the pleasure of being at a couple of conferences where he spoke. Bruce Wilkinson wrote The Prayer of Jabez and many other books a lot of people know about. One of the books called The Dream Giver, talking about the peaks and valleys, okay? And chasing your dream. And that depending on the size of your dream, you have to be really protective of it too. Sometimes you're down in the valley and you're going through a lot of trials and tribulations to see how bad that you are, and to check your motives and morals and all the things that happen with that. Because we all have moments where we doubt or stop and reflect and think maybe, no, if the dream is big enough, the facts don't count. And what the book revealed was that the dream giver, in this case, the universal forces, God, whatever your belief system is, understanding that at least there's something greater than just you out there. But what the dream giver was doing was preparing that individual so when the dream was received, you would know how to handle it.
Wow, that's
the right
powerful.
way.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really powerful.
Yeah, well, let me move on to the next question. Do you think leadership training and motivational speak get intertwined, making real momentum foggy?
Great question. You need to, again, please read that one again.
Please.
Do you think leadership training, and you could also say, self-help or those kinds of things, and motivational speak get all intertwined, making real momentum and focus foggy?
Yes, I think it makes it very foggy because people don't need a motivational speech. That motivation is intrinsic. I have to create my own motivation. What we got to think about as leaders, how do we inspire? How do we get people to really lead and learn and contribute at their potential? I always talk about, everyone says greatness, greatness, greatness. Potential exists in everyone. And the job of a leader is to attack that potential. It's not to say, hey, Charity, we need you to be great. Great is your own potential. And so many times we get on and I'll watch, and I have watched some of these motivational type people, and they're great at motivating, but it's not lasting. It's not sustainable. Right. What do you do in the dark when things aren't going really well? When you're at the bottom or you're going down the hill, what are you doing now? That speech isn't going to bring you to the top of the hill again. All it's going to do is just maybe motivate you for a day. What do you do when no one's looking?
Right.
What are you doing when it gets hard? And I think that it does make it foggy because there are great, inspiring, motivational speakers out there that deliver valuable content, but you forget it after the next bump in the road, right? You said the roadblock. We always taught the roadblock is there for a reason. You have to figure out how to go over it, around it, under it, or through it. Those are the methods. But that doesn't happen by just being motivated alone. Inspired means I'm inspired to find a solution.
Yeah, I remember my late 30s and early 40s. That was a long time ago. But I remember getting really, I was making some really tremendous life changes, and because I wanted different things in my life, and I met this guy. Anyway, I went to a lot of conventions, networking conventions, with phenomenal speakers, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands sometimes in stadiums. And it was just like, it was electric and magnetic and in between the breaks. And I was one of them, like most of them. And I'm not saying it's good, bad, or indifferent. I'm just saying I would rush out and spend money I didn't have on all this material that I would never actually sort through most of the time. Okay. But I love listening to them because that does, inspire me and motivate me to continue my education. But I have to do it not in that moment. Those moments, I have to be real cognizant of. They're fleeting, and if you react at that emotional level, you're going to spend your way into the poorhouse. I'm just going to say that right now. Anyway.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. And think about it this way. This is why the traditional training programs aren't sustainable, right? And this is why a different strategy is needed in 2025 and beyond.
And that's what you are bringing to the table.
What we're trying to bring to the table. And I've done literally hundreds, if not more, of these free webinars to really try to, this is not a commercial. It's really about people understanding that the intent is not for me to receive, it's for me to give. It's for us to provide the best valuable practical tool sets to allow you to adapt and put the power back in your hands. And that's really where it lands. It's within the hands of the person driving the bus.
Absolutely. I struggle sometimes with sometimes what I say and other times how I say it. And I'm real quick when I think I'm wrong to make amends. And then other times people might think I was a little too stern because I get to a place at times where I just deliver a message and it can be pretty harsh and thought provoking. I don't get there very often, but when I do, it's like I check myself. Am I right for saying that? But when people are crying and whining and self-pity and poor me, it can only go so far. And then I have to let them know that's their fault. That's their problem. Knock it off, grow up, quit freaking whining and acting like a baby. Anyway.
Have some grit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so when you say training, we hear it all the time, Joe. Coach, it can be overused. But let me point out to all of you out there listening to Coach, he's got the name Coach for a particular reason. He's not a trainer, because it falls on deaf ears. I think training. Oh, no, train. No. Train. No, it's mentoring and motivating and educating, and it's helping you find out what you want and giving you information to show you how to get it. But it is up to you if you're going to receive it.
Yeah, you couldn't have said it any better. Thank you, first of all, for that generous support. And when you are the recipient, when you're in the audience, if you will, you have a choice. You can say, none of this aligns with my purpose or values, and choose not to participate. But if those align with your purpose and values, they're very strategic. It's learning and development. It's using science to apply the skill sets so they're sustainable, right? They're measurable, they're practical. I always say training is you train a dog. You do. Learning and development is developing people. And I don't think there's anyone at any level that is more important than a leader to continue to develop them. And that's where I think you and I align massively, is there's a gap, and it's getting wider.
Yeah. And people that I talk to, because your name comes up often or I see you, you're not, I don't think I've heard, you do training, but you're more of a mentor, a leader. This is not just a short-term in and out. This is setting up where there'll be really significant changes. And all you want, and everybody that I know that knows you, that you want the same thing for everybody. And that's them to find out what they want and help them go to that level. But there's a process you have to go through, and it's not through osmosis.
Yes, spot on. Thank you again for that generous comment.
Man, we are behind on questions. Charity?
Yeah. When I think of training, I think, oh, it's your first day of the job. Here's how to work the phones. Here are the codes.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I don't think Coach Joe, that's something completely different, So let me try to get through one or two more of these. And I think this is a good one. And sometimes we just want tangible answers to questions like these.
Okay.
How can one become a better leader? What can be done today to make positive momentum in leadership development tomorrow?
So how to become a better leader? You got to invest in yourself. Really, it's that simple. You have to be able to read. You have to be able to, and when I say read, I mean really intellectually read the content, like Dan Pink, like Jim Collins, and we could go on and on and on. listen to podcast shows, listen to someone that you may not agree with, because the reality is when you listen to someone else's perspective, you learn something new. I don't
That's
have to
right.
change your perspective to align with mine, but you learn a different perspective. So how does a leader become better? Lean on becoming a learning leader, continuously learning, looking for avenues to grow. I mean, I don't think there's a day that goes by where personally I'm not reading, watching, or listening to some aspect of leadership that is fundamental to who we're becoming as people. And then the second part of that question, could you restate the second part for me?
Sure. What can be done today to make positive momentum in leadership development tomorrow?
I think the biggest thing that can be done is for leaders to recognize that there's a different pathway in 2025 than a traditional training environment. You have to be willing to be, what they call them early adapters, I think is the right word I was looking for. There has to be an early adapter to say, I'm willing to change my culture, to adapt the approach by providing fundamental resources to my team. And one thing that we love to do, and I talked to a general manager the other day specifically about this, I train my person and they get better and they leave. Well, none of that is transpired down. It's not transferable because that person is being taught the tactical approach. And so in our environment, we're really talking about changing the foundation of that learning and development so that not only is it developed within that individual leader, but they then can make that grow, feed it, water it, plant it throughout the organization. It's sustainable.
Yeah, that 50% turnover with service managers a year, that's not because of money. And I think a lot of people think it is. That's because of bad leadership.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask this one because I like how it sounds. So explain to us how leadership is a lot like riding a bull.
Man, I love that.
Wow. Gosh,
Yeah.
we need an intermission just to be able to contemplate that.
Yeah.
We're going to listen to Coach's response. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm gonna tease this a little bit because I really want the people that haven't had a chance to read that Leadership Quotient article to read it, because there are core fundamentals in there that talk about exactly what a bull rider goes through, that I will allude this way. In essence, you have to be able to be prepared for the bull ride. You have to have practice. You have to have understanding. You have to have a core values that align with what that means to you. You have to be able to have a clear definition of what success looks like. And there are more steps in there that I'll just encourage your audience to read, because I think it says more when you take time to really process what I wrote in that article.
And
But I want to make sure we talk about that.
Yeah, and where can they find that, Joe?
Yeah, so on LinkedIn, I post.
You see what I tell you about her? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you can find me on LinkedIn. Please, if we're not connected, please do. If you love the content that we share, read it, consume it, apply it. Fantastic. I'm not looking for anything in return. And I just hope that it can multiply. So that's where you can find it. It's called Leadership Quotient. And I publish that newsletter every Monday and Wednesday.
It's worth a read. It's worth a read.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So how do you recommend leaders stay grounded in high pressure environments?
The easiest thing to do is react. The easiest thing to do is to panic, is to blame, complain, and defend, right? BCD, blame, complain, and defend. That's the easiest route. The hardest route is introspection. What could I be doing differently that would adjust the outcome? So when we think about specific to the automotive environment, it's sad, but the reality is the first reaction is Russell's not good enough, so I have to move on from him and put Patrick in the seat behind him. And then Patrick's not doing well enough, so I have to move him out and put Charity in that seat. And that's not always the case. Many times it's the process breakdown. So the leader has to have introspection and say, what am I not clear about? What are we missing from an organizational standpoint that aligns with our values, our purpose? Is there a path to mastery? Do we have a clear way for Russell to be successful in his role? Do we give Charity the autonomy to make mistakes, but also to do their job, to contribute to the mission? And then lastly, is there a clear set of rules, or do the rules change? And that's what we find is the rules change often. And we're not talking about economic change. We're talking about the rules are, well, last year we were at this number in EBT, and this year we have to be here. So we're going to magically make that jump in 30 days.
Sure. That makes sense. Yeah, magic.
Wave the wand, everybody does better because I said so.
Yeah. No, in high pressure I can't think like that in high pressure situations. The only thing I can think of, and most of the time I can accomplish it, is not to react to the emotional state that I'm in, because it's going to be wrong every single time. So I will sit back in those, and then I can start to process and evaluate logically what's going on here. Because if I react emotionally, it's just my experience, it is wrong.
I think that's pretty universal, Russell.
Yeah. But people do it.
Pause on an email, right? You ever want to write that nasty gram email back to the person that sent you a nasty gram?
Yes. And I have done that, hit send, because I knew I made a mistake and tried to undo it, but it went through anyway.
It went through. And you look back the day later and you go, oh, I shouldn't have said that. Whoa. Yeah. Right. Is that me? I think that was.
It is universal, but why do people continue to react?
Because it's
every time.
It's human instinct. If you think about our biology is built so that we are built to protect ourselves. We're built to say fear's coming. So let me get into that fight mode. And the easy method is to say, I don't need to be introspective. You need to do your job. And when you say to someone, this is how silly this sounds, work harder. That's not an answer.
No.
That's a statement. It's not a direction. It's not a clear purpose. How does charity work harder, right?
Working harder doesn't even help you achieve whatever it is you're trying to achieve anyway.
Yeah.
Smarter, yes.
One of the best leaders that I've ever worked for, and his philosophy was really simple. Go to the root, right? Get to root cause. Once you do a root cause analysis, then build your strategy from the root cause analysis. And then once you have that strategy, you have to do what everyone at a leadership level does. Take massive action, adjust and adapt. Notice what's working, what's not, and adjust and adapt. And then help your team go along that journey. Right? We create these journeys and we just say, get on the bus. I'm not telling you where the destination is, just get on the bus. Sometimes that's inspiring. Yes. We're going to get there because we're all on the same bus, but sometimes it can be, well, where are we going and why? What's our meaning? What's our purpose for? Yeah.
Sometimes just get on the bus. It'll be revealed later.
Yeah.
No, I'm not getting on the damn bus. I'm just telling you right now. Okay. And until I know exactly where we're going, they're going to miss out on a lot, aren't they?
Yes, they are. And, if you think about all the pressures, if your business is having financial pressure and the client that's coming into your business is feeling that same financial pressure, and your team members are feeling that same financial pressure, what happens? It becomes transactional. And so I only need you to make myself feel better in the transaction. And then our relationship ends. That transaction ends with it.
True.
And so that person that's working on the team, they also start to feel like a transaction. And when they feel like a transaction, they start looking for other places. I heard the other day a really crazy study about how many people have the ability to go on this thing right now and find a job while they're working? I think the statistics were something in the 60% range. Think about that. If you're a person on your team, rather than doing the things that drive the results, are trying to find another job, your culture is broken.
And guess what? The culture is broken.
Yeah.
And that's all we're trying to do today with all of us out there that are showing up for these. We know people are starting to listen and understand. When you got 4 generations in one dealership, there's it can be overwhelming, but there's a lot of opportunity to learn and grow and lead and develop and coach and mentor and all the things. And it's like, no, they just want this, that. Sometimes people really don't understand. One of the huge successes that have made me successful is that old biblical cliche, it's better to give than to receive. And understanding that it's really about watching other people grow and hit those aha moments. And it's not about me. It's not about you. I make it that way sometimes, but inherently that's not what it's about. I feel much more fulfilled when I'm truly giving of myself without expecting anything in return. Even if people don't really ask me for money, but there was times where they did, and I would loan them money. But it was a gift. And they made all these promises they were going to pay it back. Most of them actually never did, and I still love them where they're at. But they avoid me, not because of me, because of them. And I can't. Well, if I do this for you, then you need to do that for me. I'm out on those favor things too. Okay, if you're going to do it, do it. Okay, it'll come back to you anyway. But if you try to negotiate it coming back to you in a way that you think it should come back to you, then you're wrong, and you're still not going to be fulfilled. And we still got more questions, and we're already out of time.
Yeah, we're not going to make it through all of them, but
that means that we can have them back on.
That's true.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely.
So, Joe, are there any questions that we didn't ask you today that you wish we would have?
Nothing that I can think about. I think we covered a lot of the things that I'm really passionate and care deeply about. And thank you for that and giving me a voice to actually share and contribute to other people, because that's really what most of this is about, right? To Russell's point, how much more can you give? You can give as much as you can so that the receiver says, okay, this adds value to me. So I can't think of anything else particularly.
Well, if you were to ask us that question, even though we're out of time, we have several questions that would have really spurred some additional conversation about AI and where all that's going. So we'll use it for next time. But other than that, Joe Clementi, Coach, we're humbled, honored, and grateful to have you on. And all of you out there listening, when this rolls out, like him, love him, reach out to him, connect him. See what he's about, what he's getting into, because he's the real deal. I'm just telling you, I've been connected with him for over 5 years now, and he's everywhere. And he's not doing it for monetary reasons, okay? He's doing it because he genuinely likes pouring into people without all these false expectation of what's in it for me. And if those things are important to you, then listen, reach out, and become part of the things that a lot of us are a part of. For those of you out there, or listen to it over and over and over again. Thank you, Charity and Patrick, for the editing. All of you out there, we appreciate another tremendously successful episode of WTF. And what the FixedOPS, right?
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.